I er forhåbentlig blevet bevæbnet godt med en kop morgenkaffe til 45 minutter i selskab med mig selv. Og Peter Gustafsson, jeg vil starte med lige at præsentere mig selv. Jeg hedder Henrik Engqvist. Jeg er Key Account Manager her i Nixu Danmark. Som Key Account Manager og i øvrigt også Bid Manager beskæftiger jeg mig med offentlige kunder, kommuner og statslige institutioner og større danske virksomheder. Vi dækker sådan rimelig bredt over hele vores produktportefølje og ved selvfølgelig noget om de forskellige produkter og løsninger til et vist niveau, men vi har også en bred portefølje, og derfor så har vi også ofte man kan sige selskab af nogle subject matter experts, og det har jeg også i dag. Det er min sidemand her, Peter Gustafsson fra Barracuda, som vil præsentere mere om Barracuda-produkter. Men det var sådan lige mine indledende bemærkninger. Nu vil jeg dele nogle ganske få slides om Nixu. Dagens emne er jo e-mail protection. Hvis jeg ellers lige kunne få skærmen til at skifte. Det gør den så ikke igen. Sådan der. Hvis nu I undervejs har spørgsmål, så kan I sende dem ind via spørgsmålsfeltet. Og hvis det er noget, som drejer sig om lige præcis det, vi er i gang med, så tager vi det med det samme, men ellers så tager vi og samler op på spørgsmålene og vender tilbage til dem til sidst. Hvis der skulle være nogle spørgsmål, som er meget komplicerede, eller hvor I vil have mange informationer, så vil vi også tillade os bare at gemme jeres spørgsmål, og så vender vi tilbage til jer med en opfølgning og fortæller jer et bedre og mere uddybende svar på det spørgsmål, som I måtte have. I Nixu der dækker vi, som jeg lige var inde på, en meget bred produktportefølje og er en it-sikkerhedsvirksomhed, som dækker det it-sikkerhedsmæssige område over en holistisk kamp på 360 grader. Det er både rådgivning og audit-ydelser. Det er også en række intelligente løsninger. Og vi leverer det enten som man kan sige licenssalg eller som en managed service på et niveau, som er tilpasset efter hvilken outsourcing-strategi at jeres virksomhed har. Her har jeg vist en række af de løsninger, som vi arbejder med, men jeg vil ikke gå mere i dybden med det, for i dag skal vi snakke om e-mail protection. Vi har selvfølgelig en stribe af større kunder, og her har vi en lille blæreslide. Der er også nogen, der viser 50 eller 100 virksomheder på en slide, og det kunne vi også have gjort, men her er blot nogle eksempler på nogle af de virksomheder, som vi hjælper med lige præcis de her typer af løsninger, som vi skal tale om i dag. Og hvorfor skal vi så tale om e-mail-sikkerhed? Det skal vi selvfølgelig, fordi en stor del af hackerangreb, de kommer ind via mailboksen. Det ved vi sikkert alle sammen, og hvis vi ikke ved det, så finder vi i hvert fald ud af det. Det er phishing mails, som er en af de største trusler. Og medarbejderne, også medarbejdere, og det er sådan set på, uanset hvilket niveau vi er på, vi er det svageste led. Teknik, det kan man implementere. Det er langt sværere at implementere en adfærd. Og så skal man jo huske, at en phishing-mail, når man har fået den ind, så eksisterer den faktisk i din mailbox og udgør en trussel, indtil den aktivt bliver slettet. Det er ikke fordi den ligger og er aktiv i selve inboxen, men så længe den ikke er slettet, også fra slettet mails, så eksisterer den jo, og en senere adgang til den samme mail vil jo reaktivere den. Og det er også værd at huske, at der er ikke nogen mailsystemer, der er sikre i sig selv. Alle mailsystemer, de kræver, at der er en eller anden form for sikkerhedsløsning tilkoblet. For eksempel 365, det indeholder en masse forskellige muligheder, som man kan vælge, men der er også nogle mangler. Og nogle af de mangler, det er jo for eksempel en ordentlig backup-løsning og recovery-løsning. Og det kommer vi nærmere ind på her under Peters oplæg. Og det var sådan set en ganske korte indledning fra min side, fordi jeg synes, vi skal bruge hovedparten af tiden på at fortælle om Barracuda-løsningen, og derfor så er vi nu nået frem til, at jeg vil give ordet til Peter.
Thank you, Henrik. And then moving to English. Hope that not surprises anybody. Could I have control of the screen as well, Henrik? Thank you.
Yeah, you go.
There we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Peter. I am managing Barracuda networks in the Nordics together with a great team of people, and we work very closely with Nixu as our premier partner, our highest level of partnership in the Danish region, and we're so happy to be able to talk to you this morning on something that's very, very painful and very important for actually all organizations and us as personal people as well. So today I would like to speak mainly about that, but as you might not be familiar with Barracuda from before, just one view of what we work with, which areas. And besides email protection that we'll be talking about today, we also have been around for almost 20 years working with IT security and securing organizations for a very long time. And we do that within also application and cloud security. So we were actually the absolute first security vendor within both AWS, Azure, and Google, and we're still
We lost your sound, Peter. Peter, we lost your sound.
And then finally, we, which is fairly unique as an IT security company, we actually see protecting your data as a kind of a last resort. So we've also for a very long time been working with backup and archiving solutions as a part of the security posture. So Barracuda is a global company. We have hundreds of thousands of customers, helping them every day to secure their journey, as we say. So products and solutions is important, but maybe to position Barracuda a little bit more as a company and how you would interact with us. I think there are two things that we drive very hard and we have as a mission. One is that, and we'll be speaking about that today a little bit, is that we drive very hard innovation to make sure that we actually are providing technologies and solutions that are important today. And we do that by very close collaboration with, not to say the least, Microsoft. So a lot of our technology is actually co-developed with engineers at Microsoft. We, besides being innovative, also think it's very important in this arena, let's say, as IT security can be very complex, complicated to work with in many ways. So we try to make this as simple as possible for you as a customer. In terms of understanding what you're actually buying, what it's meant to solve, how it works, and to deploy this technology and to use over time. So everything around understanding the functionality, the manageability, and not to say the least, the cost is very, very important. And that's where we, I think, stand out very much, and hope I can show you a little bit of that today. I actually want to emphasize Microsoft again one more time. We know that almost every customer has a very clear view of a Microsoft strategy, more or less, to make sure that it's giving them the support, giving you the support you need in terms of productivity and accessibility and so forth. And we understand this, and this is why it's been very important for us to have a very close relationship with Microsoft. So on that note, as I mentioned, we do co-develop a lot of the technologies we have to reassure really you that this is something that adds on top of what Microsoft is offering. So you're not doubling up on technology, and also in terms of cost. And we are happy to do projects together to ensure that that's the case for you. So Microsoft's relationship to us and yourself is very important to make sure this is relevant in a good way. So the topic of the day, total email protection is a brand for us. We actually are unique in the perspective that we just don't protect in one or the other way in terms of your email. We have what we call a multi-layered approach on this and cover more areas within email protection than actually anybody else, and we'll show you a little bit about that. And the reason for that is really, as I mentioned, we've been working with this for almost 20 years, and on that travel, let's say, we've come to understand that there's a need to have a multiple amount of different types of protection, because the development of these threats cyber criminals are performing, it demands that you have different approaches for different types of threats. And we've actually defined what we call 13 email threat types. And this is a document that we're happy to share with you afterwards as well, that kind of outlines these different categories of threats. And the reason for that is, again, that you need to address these in different ways. So this document really, which we're not going to go through in detail now, really outlines the consequences of these types of threats. So everything from the very simple spam, which still is and can be a nuisance, to the very aggressive ransomware or spear phishing attacks, account takeovers, is different arenas in both the consequences, but also how you can protect yourself against this. So we're going to show you a little bit about that, and I'm sure you'll recognize some of these pains. Your interest to be a part of this session in the morning is an evidence of that you have an interest or curiosity or maybe a severe pain in these areas, and we're happy to help you within these topics. And it can be anything from a general feeling that too much is coming into your organization, regardless of what you have in types of versions of Office 365 or added software. You still see different types of attacks, and we're happy to help you on the journey of making that much better. And as I mentioned, to do that, we have what we call a multi-layered approach. So this is a selection of modules really, where you can add the piece that you feel is lacking in your current situation, or you can actually approach this with a total email protection perspective. So today we're going to be focusing really on a few of these because we don't have time for more, that we feel and see that customers are mainly interested in today, regardless of what they already might have. Backup is one of those, and Henrik mentioned that as well, which is very, very important, and still a situation where some customers might not even be aware that it's necessary in Office 365. The other area where we stand out with a very innovative solution designed together with Microsoft is ability to detect what isn't able to be detected with gateway technology. So it's impossible to really prevent it from coming in, but as soon as it's there in milliseconds, we can detect this, and I'll show you a little bit more how that works. And then finally, it doesn't really matter how much solutions or protection and software you have, you will be in different situations where things go wrong. We're human, we make mistakes within the organization. The creativity of the cyber criminals is immense. So you need to have a very good way of quickly, in an automated way preferably, respond to different types of incidents so you can clean up and understand what's happened and get back to where you were. So these are the three areas that I'll cover a little bit more in detail. So let's start with backup. So do you really need a backup for Office 365? You outsource this to Microsoft, you might think, and why should I bother about saving the data again? It's in the cloud. Well, actually, Microsoft is very clear on this point, that they do not guarantee that your data, in terms of outages that can be of different nature, it can be from attacks, it can be from mistakes, is not their responsibility in the end. They have some retention policies in place that help you, but in the end, you have your own responsibility. And they, in their terms and conditions, actually outline that you have responsibility for this with third-party products. Not only Microsoft does this, actually Gartner is also very clear on this, and they have a lot of reports showing customers that have not done this, and it's cost them quite a lot. And they emphasize to customers the need of this. And you might recognize a few of the circumstances around this and the pains that could come from not having a backup, and preferably a cloud-based backup. The two major incidents that you might need a backup for is really, I'd say, first of all, accidental deletion, so mistakes made within the organization, or even could not be mistakes sometimes, it can be internal attacks, people that are angry with you. And the second is really ransomware attacks these days, which is increasing both in volume and the amount of money involved. But it could also be regulatory compliance needs that you have, and all these require that you have a backup. And then you might think, okay, I'll just use my traditional backup. We have a backup on-prem for our servers and applications and all that. I'll just download it to my backup that I have, which is not such a good idea, because this means that you, again now, even though you outsource this to the cloud, you need to start working in infrastructure and putting in plans in place for storage and so forth. And not only that, you're actually putting your data at risk again, because the ransomware attacks are actually designed to, first of all, identify any backup solutions on-prem, Windows Server based, that can get infected as well. So you're not helping yourself in terms of protecting against ransomware attack when using an on-prem Windows Server based backup. You need to have another solution in place for that. And again, the reason for that is that we're seeing still an increasing amount of attacks of this nature. You in the paper have certainly seen recently in Denmark as well, these types of attacks and the immense cost it has on organizations. And it's not good for the brand either. So, but you can actually protect yourself very well against this. First, you need to prevent with a proper advanced threat protection. But as a second resort, you can rely on a backup to restore a point in time before you actually were infected. So I really want to emphasize the difference of a backup and a backup. Having a backup on-prem Windows Server based still demands a lot of work, a lot of cost, and also planning. But maybe most importantly, you're still at risk for pieces of why you have a backup to begin with. So it's very important to understand that difference. So what we offer really is a pure cloud-native, cloud backup service, which means that you don't have to take responsibility for really anything other than defining and setting up your initial backup, which is done under 10 minutes. So you don't have to think of who should we back up, what should we back up, for how long. You have unlimited storage, unlimited retention, and it backs up everything. So it's extremely simple to set up and work with over time, and you don't have to worry about strategies on storage growth and so forth. It's also the most granular, restorable data that you can get, because, and here we come to one of the innovations, this is actually designed together with Microsoft, with architects at Microsoft, to ensure that you have the latest and greatest APIs to actually restore in the way that you want to, in all the details and point in time and structure that you're expecting. So it's very simple and it's very powerful, and also extremely cost effective. And just to mention a few examples of the features, and you might have looked at other alternatives before, and I can tell you that these types of features we are absolutely leading in terms of the granularity that you can work with this, and the simplicity about working with it as well. So it's all about making sure that you can actually restore details in terms of your team sites, in your SharePoint, and of course OneDrive and Outlook in general. And you want to do this in the most simple way, really, and rely on this just working over time. And we also make it very easy for you to attach. We have public-facing APIs for you as well, to if you want to have reporting and so forth on this. Makes it very easy for you. So just to sum that up, it is absolutely cloud native and cloud optimized. We don't need to work with any details and configuration. We've set all that up for you. The data is in 3 different places within the Azure platform, which makes it extremely elastic and powerful. So it's fast. it's extremely easy to do the backups. You automate this more or less, and then you can restore in a very easy way with search capabilities and a structure that you can recognize that's very granular. And you barely need to manage it, really. Of course, you need to maybe follow up on alarms and warnings, but it's nothing that you have to work with over time to make sure it's working. And as I mentioned, you can also automate it and export reports if you choose to. So one of the most important things I think is to because this is, I think, a threshold for many that you think, oh, I need to do a backup again. We put it in Office 365 to not have to work with this, and so that becomes a pain. But actually, you can within minutes reassure that you have a full backup, restorable point in time, in detail, and very easy to manage over time. And of course, I just want to clarify that Microsoft has some ways of helping you short-term restore data should you make mistakes. And this kind of outlines the maximum capacity of that service that you might think is longer. So for mail, you can set up retention policies that will help you over time for a longer time if you pay for it and you configure it that way. But it's still a much more complicated way of handling that. In terms of the rest, though, like SharePoint and OneDrive and Teams, it's between 30 to 90 days, and then it is gone. There is no way to restore data other than possibly setting up an issue with Microsoft with their sorry, got something in my screen here. Apologies, there's something trying to get me to think that should work. So this is really what you have in the service from Microsoft, ability to restore up to 90 days, really, which is very different from unlimited, which is the case. You might also look at more local alternatives, and again, there are plenty of vendors that can do the service, but we've been doing this for a long time. I think we're in our 5th year now, so it's a very comprehensive solution and experience around this. So we have over 15,000 actually active customers in this specific type of backup. We work with backup in general as well, and we can also see that there is a need for this because we have actually over 10,000 restore jobs per month performed by our customers. So it's being used for what it's meant for. And to emphasize the collaboration with Microsoft, there's several webinars. There are some blogs and white papers where Microsoft actually talks about this collaboration from their point of view as well, and emphasize the value of it actually being designed together and the need of it working in this way. So happy to give you some more information on that as well. So that was backup, a very important piece of your security posture, and it will help you relax in terms of all kinds of mistakes and threats that might harm your data, and you can then do restore at a point in time and recover from that in a very simple way. The solution is purchased on a per user license, so you never have to worry about the data storage retention, and it's measured on the net amount of actually active users. So you can make sure that you're not paying for more than you want to, really, and you can still save all the data that you have from recent employees over time free of charge. So it's the net value of users. But Nixu will be happy to help you with the details on that. So then moving over to the next layer that I mentioned, the inbox defense. So why would we need that? Well, we also have a gateway, very powerful gateway with advanced threat protection against the ransomware, for instance. But these type of modern threats that you see here on the right-hand side, a gateway simply can't help you with, because there is nothing to find with the techniques a gateway uses, which is about filtering and searching for known threats. It could be links, or it could be executing files. It could be reputation on senders. But today, criminals are using other techniques to really get you in trouble, and you need something else to do that. So the next layer is what we call inbox defense. The product's name is Barracuda Sentinel, and it is a standalone. So you can add this to whatever you might have as a gateway or solutions from Microsoft. And what it basically does is help you protect yourself against, for one, social engineering of all types. So for instance, emails that you get that seem to be coming from organizations or people that you know, asking you to log in or provide information or just communicate really back and forth. This is something that a gateway won't detect if you haven't specifically found the exact identification of that email to begin with. A next example could be, if you think of an Outlook mail, you won't see it like this, you'll see a more graphic version, but if you, for instance, worked at corp.com, your name was Michael, and you got an email from Jane at corp.com, you would see that. But if this user was spoofed, so it wasn't really Jane sending an email to begin with, and actually if you replied to the email, it would be sent to a completely other address that you wouldn't instantly see when you're replying to this communication. And this is a classic example of hijacking conversation, where somebody's taken over an email account, is starting in a conversation internally or externally, and this won't be picked up by a gateway either, and you need protection for that. So how do we do this? Well, it's not magic, but it's AI. And first of all, in terms of the collaboration with Microsoft, what we've been able to do is attach APIs directly into you as a customer's Office 365 environment, because again, this can't be prevented, but we can detect it immediately, milliseconds after it's in the environment. So what we do is, through that AI engine, learn all types of behavior that is normal. So all communication that's ever happened within the organization and externally puts up classifiers, which really creates a normal behavior in terms of how, where, to whom, and with what content different types of communication is happening. So there's no need to set up any rules or policies of any kind. It does this automatically based on all the historic traffic that's happened with you as a customer and all our other customers. And as soon as something stands out from that, so all of a sudden an email seems to be coming from somewhere else with a user that never emails from that specific address, it might be using another application. There could be content in the email, anything from the color of the logo to the sentiment of the language. So how is the conversation being written? It will understand that it's abnormal from what usually happens. And when that happens, it will immediately, so within milliseconds, take it out of the inbox and put it into quarantine. And that's one part of this solution. So social engineering is very important these days to avoid having that in the inbox of your users. But what it also does is identifies in a similar way account takeovers. So if anybody's been able to access your password, or for any reason or anyhow accessing your user's email, it will detect this as well, again based on behavior. And finally, what it does is helps you make sure that your domains are not being used by other organizations unwillingly from you. So it will provide you with a graphical view of all the places in the world who is using your domain. You might want some organizations to do this, like a marketing agency or something like that, but maybe not that Asian-based organization you've never heard of. So what this does is really show you this, but also provides you with the code that you can use in your DMARC reporting settings. And so you can very easily make sure that you, over time, are protected from that type of spoofing or brand fraud. So this is a module. It's called Barracuda Sentinel. And again, it's deployed in minutes. So you don't have to configure or work with this product at all. It's completely automatic. It's up and running in minutes, and also you pay per user for that service. And I can talk about this and promise you everything around this, of course. And there are other alternatives you might think is similar. But then I challenge you really to just have a look by doing a simple, what we call health check. So you can use this tool in a basic version to just perform a health check. So it's not going to be implemented, it's not going to change anything. It will just scan your environment for 1 year of history and find what you actually have within your environment now. And this is completely free of charge. It doesn't change anything, and it's done in, depending on the size of the environment, in a few hours. And you will then get a report that shows you exactly which users have different types of threats within their environment right now, regardless of what you have in place at this moment. And this will help you understand the capacity of the solution. Then you can choose to convert that to a trial, and it will dig even deeper. It will show you account takeovers and the domain spoofing and so forth as well. Still free of charge as a first step of getting a good understanding of the value of this. So that's inbox defense. Then finally, I'd like to just mention, as I previously mentioned, you might put all the technology you have in place to try and protect and prevent and detect, but in the end, things are going to happen. There are incidents because of different scenarios with mistakes and cyber criminals being very creative. So what we can help you with then, which also is a module, an individual module, but also a part of the suite, is what we call the forensics and incident response tool. So what this basically does is, if you think of an incident happening, so a user or IT discovers an email that seems suspicious, or you can really see that this is not a good thing, you should not have this in your environment. What you then want to do is find out, okay, who else is affected by this? Does anybody else in the organization have this? So the tool will automatically, based on that initial identification, identify anybody else within the environment without you setting up any code or doing anything more than just defining this incident. Search the entire environment to see if there are similar attacks within the environment. And not only that, it will immediately also report to you what's happened with it. So has the user clicked on anything? Have they logged in, provided passwords? Have they answered or maybe even forwarded the email? And based on what's happened, it will automatically as well remediate that harm. So for instance, if a user has forwarded the email because it implies that you should, and that's a part of the attack really, the tool, if you want it to, will automatically send an email to that recipient informing them of the situation and asking them to be aware of this. And all of this is something that used to take hours or even days, and then you still didn't know, did we find everything? Did we clean it up? And this will be instead done in minutes or a very few hours, and you will feel comfortable that you've uncovered everything that's happened and you've responded to it in a good way. So very, very powerful tool to help you with that. So that's the overall solution of total email protection with a few of the pieces in there. We haven't talked about archiving. We haven't talked about email security gateway, which really is the initial prevention against, I would say, ransomware these days, besides the typical gateway technologies that you would need. We also haven't talked about security awareness, which is a way for you, besides all the technology, to make your employees a part of the protection and constantly over time simulating, understanding the behavior, putting in training in place that's relevant to that behavior, and over time just work with this as a cloud solution really. So today we talked about backup, we've talked about the API-based inbox, which is called Barracuda Sentinel, and incident response. Also like to mention that actually just a few weeks ago, we were at the Forrester Wave report latest 2019. We were a leader already then, but we've also been confirmed as a leader in this space again, which we're very proud of. And we have, as I mentioned, hundreds of thousands of customers that we help within IT security in different areas. We are over 100,000 customers that use this type of service. And as you saw within backup, it's around there as well. So you're in good company of many customers of all sizes. There can be a 10-user organization, and we have a very big portion of both Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 customers also using our service. So it's actually both a small medium business and an enterprise grade solution, a lot because of the simplicity it has. And we're happy to provide you with industry references if you would like in different areas. This is just an example of a customer in Sweden that looked at us first and thought if it felt very well, but wanted to do diligence, spent 2-3 months to try and find something that could compete in a good way, but simply found that they couldn't. So we're very proud of that quote from them, of course. They're actually a firewall customer to us as well, a global company that uses our SD-WAN technology worldwide. On that, what we've talked about today really is our email protection area, and also cloud-to-cloud backup. And I think one of the values with working with Barracuda, besides those specific areas, is the fact that we work with IT security in general. So we're not just focused on backup or an email security. We have both experience, but also solutions that interact between these different environments in terms of helping you stay secure in the best possible way. We're also very helpful in terms of making you understand, giving you the resources you need. So on our Barracuda campus site, you can dig into all the technology and best practice and work with this if you choose to. But as I mentioned, it's very simple to work with, so usually it doesn't take that much of research actually. But we do have that site open, and as soon as you're a customer to us, you have a license in place. You're also in all our products given access to our 24/7 support. We have our own employees, somewhere between 350-400 people right now, that help you over time should you have any issues or need some help in any case regarding the solutions. So we're always there to help you. And that was really my final words for now, and handing it over to Henrik again to wrap up and maybe answer to any questions that might have come up.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter. Actually, there's a few questions, and the first question is for the backup solution. Can it back up Planner?
Good question. So this is a version 3 for us. It was launched in January. One of the advantages of it being designed in the way it is now together with Microsoft, it is very easy to attach new modules. So we have just around the corner actually going to have abilities to add both Power BI, Planner, several other parts of Microsoft platform. But not only that, we're actually going to be providing abilities to back up services like Salesforce and so forth as well. So not at this moment, but it is on the roadmap, and it's going to happen this year.
Thank you. And the next question is, in relation to your AI classification, those classifiers or personal characteristics are not directly relatable to a person, are they? The questioner is thinking about the GDPR context, and if such an AI can be exploited to identify a person.
So I'm not a technical person, so I really don't want to go into the technical details, but I can say that the solution has there's no transparency in ability for any person to identify any person. It's purely based on a layer of abnormality in regard to the behavior. But I'm happy to that person provide. We have documents explaining more exactly how this works, of course. And just to emphasize, we are GDPR compliant and have documentation to support that naturally.
Thank you, Peter. And that was actually the last question, at least so far. There is a few minutes left, so if any in the audience have any other questions, please feel free to forward them. And even though that if there is questions that we might not reach to answer for the moment, we will come back to you with the answers anyway. Og ellers så vil jeg slå over i dansk igen og sige tusind tak, fordi I var med os her i de her 45 minutter. Jeg håber, at I har fået meget ud af det, og måske at vi har lykkes med at pirre jeres nysgerrighed, og I ønsker at vide mere om Total Email Protection pakken eller de enkelte moduler. Og så skal I selvfølgelig bare hive fat i os her hos Nixu, så er vi parat til at tage et individuelt møde med jer og gennemgå lige præcis de dele, som I måtte have spørgsmål til eller ønsker mere information omkring. Og selvom der så nu er 3 minutter til gode, så vil jeg sige tak for i dag til jer alle sammen. Det var rigtig dejligt, at I var med os, og så kan jeg kun ønske jer en god dag og god weekend, når I når så langt. Og jeg håber, at I vil lytte med en anden gang, når Nixu præsenterer et spændende emne. Tak til dig, Peter. Tak til audience.
Tak for mig. Tak så mycket, Henrik.